as the New to Libraries Network may be new to a lot of you. It is a group that is currently located in Ohio. And I wanted to share a little bit about us. So we're open to anyone who's new to libraries, from LAS students to library staff, just information professionals, and librarians from any kind of library. We The one caveat is you should have 10 years or less experience, but regardless of your education status, our mission is to welcome and provide support, networking, and professional development opportunities to those who are new to library employment. So I'm going to go ahead and start introduce our speakers, and then we will get started from there. So here today, we have with us Cheryl Grizzell, who's the director of Ritter Public Library. We have to remember my ABCs. We have Jenn Seebauer, who's a middle school librarian for Teays Valley Local Schools. I'm sorry, I don't think I got that one right. We have Krista McDonald, who is the director of the Rentschler Library at Miami University. And then we have Sarah Mowery, who is a professional information instructional specialist from INFOhio. And I will turn it over to Cheryl to start our presentation off. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Nice to see everybody virtually, and we have a nice crowd here. This is a really great opportunity for us to get to highlight our different kinds of libraries and answer questions. So I'm happy to be here. As we just mentioned, my name is Cheryl. I am a director for a public library. I think you all are familiar with public libraries. One of the things that I hear the most often when I interview people for jobs or when people start here and you say, why did you want to work at a library? It's always, I love books. So hopefully those of you who are here today are also in that category. I think it's one of the first things that draws us all to this profession in one way or another. So being a public library director, I would just like to start out by telling you that I have been in your shoes. When I first started working in libraries, I worked my way up. I started as a part-time associate, which is somebody who does the programs, and then I became full-time, and then I became like the helper at the branch, assistant to the branch manager, like Dwight Schrute would say, and then a librarian, a branch manager. I was an assistant director for a library system, and now I'm here. So that's my way of saying that a lot of times in libraries, people do start and they do everything. And so you get a good, well-rounded view of all of the different jobs and the different roles that we play. And I started because I like books. You just want to be around books. So that's a normal thing. So I would like to start by saying that, especially in Ohio, libraries are not public libraries are not a one size fits all. There's a lot of different types of public libraries to consider when you are, if that's the way you want to go and that's where you want to work. There are small, medium, and large. It's like, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. We at Ritter in Vermilion, we serve about 14,000 people in a single building. We would be considered a small library. Where I worked before, it was a medium-sized library system. So you have small, medium, and large, but then you also have independent, one building per community library, or you might have one that has one branch, or you might have a system that has more branches. And then you have the metropolitan libraries like Cleveland or Columbus or Cincinnati that have lots and lots of branches. So those are all just different facets, different things to consider. The most important thing that unites all of them, even though there's an immense variety in the types of public libraries and the type of funding you receive, and the communities that you're located, the thing that unites everybody in public libraries is that we aim to be a reflection of our communities. No matter which library you work in, we really strive to, if you work in a rural library, you're going to naturally reflect that community where you work and where that library is. If you work downtown Cleveland at the main branch of the main library in Cleveland, it's going to be a reflection in that way. So it's not going to look the same, whichever library you walk into. And with that comes a different feel for the job as well. So some libraries that have less funding, you're going to be the person who gets to do everything, right? Because you have to, because there's not a lot of people that work there. But if you work at a larger library, maybe you're one of many people who do the same job, and they're all rewarding just in different kinds of ways. So to me, that really is the beauty of working in a public library. You find the community where you feel like you fit in and you get to serve that community. Which brings me to the thing I'd like to make sure everybody knows is the most important aspect of being a public librarian or a public library employee is that at the root, we are truly here to serve the public. So we are public servants, just like teachers, police, firemen. Sometimes people don't realize that, but at the core of what we do every day when we walk in the door is to serve the public. And that means because of the way we're funded, you always have to be thinking of the taxpayer. This is kind of like how the sausage is made, but you gotta know that when you're walking in that a lot of times I think people have an idealized view of I'm going to work in a public library and it's going to be beautiful. I'm going to be just putting books on shelves and it's going to be quiet and nobody's going to bother me and I can read. And that's couldn't be farther from the truth. Maybe you're lucky. I mean, there are some people who are lucky that have that where they work, but the public servant aspect is so important to me and at the library where I work, that every decision we make here, it is geared towards that. How do we better serve the public? So you want to have a passion for that. So don't go into public libraries if you really don't like working with the public because you'll be disappointed. But one thing that's very rewarding, there's this phrase, I got a few minutes, I promised I'd be good. You hear it a lot in public libraries. We serve everybody from cradle to grave, which sounds a little morbid, but it's true. And that's the way of saying that we are very lucky. And what makes us special and unique with a unique opportunity is that we really do serve everybody, babies, all the way to older adults. And we see every walk of life through these doors. So that creates a lot of job satisfaction, a lot of opportunity, and just it develops a level of trust and comfort in the community, unlike any other organization that I know where people just feel like they can trust us and they come to us for things. So that's very rewarding, and it's something that you have to approach with a sense of responsibility too. So really quick, I would like to go through well, before I go, as I say, let me tell you some of the things I wish people had told me when I was in your shoes. But before I do that, let me just touch briefly on what the services are. When we serve the public, what does that mean? When the budgets are different and the libraries are different, that could be different things. At the core of it is the access to information. Yes, we have books, but that's a lot of other different things. If you aren't aware already, we have public meeting room spaces, or at least most libraries do, and programming. Those are the critical things. But sometimes that service that we provide to the public, it can be like a layer of the frosting on the cake. Like we have a fridge where people will be able to come in, and it's run by the community, and an employee I have named Chloe that some of you might recognize the name here, but it's community driven and it's a local food pantry through the library. So that is one type of service that we provide. But if your library doesn't have that, sometimes the service just looks like having a real conversation with somebody who might not have anybody to talk to. So just to give you an idea, and then I'll go through my list of things that I wish people had told me. Number one, there are gross things in the library. So don't be surprised. You aren't just going to be sitting there with books. You might have to clean up something, or, one time I stuck my hand in a book drop when I was new and I pulled out 2 half-eaten chicken legs. So, I mean, those are things that happen. You're going to deal with the public, which means that not everybody is nice. And you have to just know that going in, and you're going to deal with all walks of life. Sometimes they're going to be angry with you for things that it doesn't make sense, but it's just customer service. So that's something I wish people had told me. The other thing is it's usually not quiet in the library most of the times. So if you have that version of, a Hogwarts library or something where it's going to be really quiet and everybody's reading, that's usually not the case. And then the biggest thing is that I think more and more public libraries are acting sort of as social workers, even though we're not trained to. So I just want people to be aware of that you're going to see a lot of problems, and depending on where you work, you can see very difficult situations. Just know that there's always training there, and like um, OLC and PLA and NEORLS, or wherever your local, there is a lot of training opportunities, but don't be overwhelmed when you walk in and you think that this is not something that I knew was even happening in libraries. I think I went more than 5 minutes, but I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. All very good information. Always a good point to leave on that, like, don't worry. It's not something you know. Libraries are very good at training people. All right, next up, I will turn it over to Jenn.
Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to get my slides ready to share here. So I am a middle school librarian and have been for 17 years. And so I just wanted to share a little bit about kind of what I wish I had known, kind of as we talked about, as well as what does a day in a life in a school librarian look like. And so this, oh, I went the wrong way. I apologize, everyone. My slides are going ahead of me. There we go. So this is all of the things that I am responsible for as a middle school librarian because I am the only one here. I do not have a support staff. I don't have a full-time aide. And so, for example, thought I would highlight my day-to-day. Today, I have repaired books. I've checked books in and checked them out. I have done book talks to the whole class as well as one-to-one reader advisory with students. Something that I had to learn quick on is that my middle schoolers believe that I remember every book that I've ever book talked to them at any point in their middle school career. So it is not uncommon for a student to come up to me and go, "Well, Miss Seebauer, remember that book you talked about last week that you thought I would like?" And I'm like, "Oh, sweetheart, I've seen 1,000 of you. I don't recall." So, um, and then I had to help a teacher. We have a student who is struggling with the class novel, so coming up with some alternative titles for them, processing the books and getting them in the catalog. And then I had a student come up and describe a book series to me that he wanted me to find for him. So that was exciting, in addition to teaching and co-teaching. And so there's the great and scary thing about being a school librarian is you do it all. You are the collection development, you are the branch manager, you are the teacher, you are the reader's advisor, you are the one that when that book gets turned in, and we've had issues this year with cockroaches and bed bugs, you are the teacher, you are the person responsible for getting all those pieces and parts taken care of. What are some things I wish I knew before I became a school librarian? First of all, the big thing is people will expect, as Cheryl mentioned, that you are that person that's sitting behind the desk with the bun up in your hair and the pencil, and that you just are quietly reading all day long. And I tell them all the time, my goodness, how I would love to be able to sit and read at work, but I don't. They will ask, what do you do? Because they don't really know what a school librarian does. And a lot of them, I just had this conversation today about an hour ago, don't know that I actually have a master's in library science. They think that I am a certified aide or something along that line. No two school librarians do the same job. So the job that I do as a middle school librarian serving two different middle schools is not the same as two friends that I have been talking with today to try and find that elusive book that my student wanted. Because they're in completely different situations. One is in a high school and has a clerk, and one is in a middle school, but she's only got one building. So our jobs and our duties look different every day. The big thing that I would stress is that you have to learn to set boundaries for you and your library. People in a school library situation will think that you are available from the time you walk in the door to the time you leave. They don't think about the fact that you might want to eat lunch. You might need to use the restroom. You might have a class coming in. Or they don't think about that your space is a space that you're going to be using. And so they're going to say, well, I was going to meet with my group in your library today. So learning how to manage that space. And then finally is advocacy, advocacy, advocacy. And I'm not just talking political advocacy, which is a big to-do right now we've got some House bills that have been passed and are on the docket that are going to impact your school library, but just promoting what you do in the library so that people are aware of all that you can do and are capable of doing. It's a lot. The last piece that I will go into is, what are some things that I would recommend to you as you're thinking about next year? And we've talked about the boundaries. First of all, it's isolating because, like my situation, I am one of two certified librarians in my 7 building district. So join other groups, join professional organizations like OELMA, AASL, ALA. I know all those acronyms are a lot, but join those groups so that you have those peers out there that can help you connect. Also, find some people within your building to connect with. Find a group to have lunch with. Have somebody that you meet with in the morning so that while you may be the only certified librarian in your building, you have other people that you can lean on and can be that person who can just be your sounding board because it can become a very isolating position sometimes. Talk to everyone in your building, and because you never know when that collaboration is going to come up. I remember talking my second year to the school guidance counselor, and we were talking about how she had a group of students who really needed a way that were very diverse and unify. And so I was like, oh, there's this book called Seed Folks. And so we started a lunch group that was a group of students that she needed to bring together. And we did it as a lunch group, and it was great. And it turned into an amazing experience. And we ended up planting a garden. It was fun. Make sure that you set your boundaries, that you do get a lunch, you do get a break. And I know it sounds obvious, but read whatever it is that your students are reading. And no, not always do I want to read that I'm sorry for my fantasy friends. I am not a fantasy reader by choice, but I today was book talking multiple fantasy books because that's how I get connected with all of my students, is to do that all the time. So, and then, share what you do with your colleagues. There's newsletters. My favorite that got the most attention, my curriculum director reached out to me because she happened to be in my building and was using the restroom and saw Learn in the Loo. And I was like, great, I'm so glad that I was able to connect with you in that way. So I hope that kind of helps cover a bit of what I do and what it can be to be a school librarian.
Thank you so much. And so I'm so glad that you pointed out boundaries. That can be huge. And in way, and especially the fact that like, oh, I do have to eat lunch. Oh man. Uh, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. All right. The next up will be Krista McDonald. Please take it away.
All right, can you see my presentation?
I don't see it coming up yet.
Maybe give me just a minute.
There we go.
Okay. So my name is Krista McDonald, and I am the director at Miami University Hamilton campus. I've been in libraries for 28 years. And a couple of important things that are important to me in the work that I do is serving on Ohio Link committees. So Ohio Link is our statewide academic library consortium. I've been very active with them. And I'm also past president of our statewide professional organization, which is Academic Library Association of Ohio, or ALAO. So following up on what a previous presenter said, join those organizations and do a lot of networking. So I started out working in public libraries. Lane Library and Midpoint Library systems are kind of the east half and west half of Butler County. And I worked in those library systems doing circulation related work. So I got my MLS, and that was when I made the leap over to academic libraries. My first position was at the regional campus of Ohio University. And then this position at Miami Hamilton came open, and I popped over here. Hamilton is actually my hometown, so I'm working the right group, which is really nice. I wanted to talk about what makes academic libraries unique. Across libraries, we do a lot of the same kinds of things, but academic libraries, unlike public libraries, are here primarily to support the university's teaching and research missions. So our collection management activities were really focused on the curriculum that's offered at our institution. Probably the most important thing that I do is work with students to help them with their research assignments and make sure that they are academically successful. We also support the research and teaching of our faculty in academic libraries. And then our funding situation can be very different from, say, public libraries or K through 12. the majority of our funding comes from tuition and enrollment. We do, if you're a state institution, receive some dwindling appropriations from the state. And then, of course, we have some donors that give us money for specific purposes and also special materials and special collections. Some of the things that academic librarians do that are different from librarians and other types of libraries, we may be tenured and have additional responsibilities in service and scholarship. So our job can be a lot more than the Monday through Friday 8 to 5 type of job, because we have all these additional responsibilities that are kind of on your own. We may also have faculty status at some colleges and universities. That's kind of hit or miss, but it's possible. Academic librarians teach. Most of us, if we're in a public services type position, we at least do one-shot instruction, where if a group of students has an assignment that requires research, the instructor will bring you to have a 1-hour session with us in the library, showing you the tools for your assignment, how do you construct the best searches and that sort of thing. But we also sometimes teach for credit courses, so like a semester-long course. And something else that's unique about us, our work is very much driven by the academic calendar. So when classes are in session, we are spending the bulk of our time doing that, teaching, outreach, working one-on-one with students on their assignments and that sort of thing. But during the summer, when there are fewer classes and most of them are online, we spend time doing project work. So weeding parts of our collection, doing big updates and collection analysis, that sort of stuff. So there are a lot of different kinds of librarians in academic libraries. So if you're a people person and you like to do public services things, but I think it's fair to say most of us are subject or liaison librarians, which means, you have subject areas that you're responsible for. You work with the faculty in those departments, you're purchasing materials for those areas, and you're working with the students in that major discipline. Access services folks tend to oversee things like CERC, interlibrary loan reserves. We have makerspace librarians, data librarians, INC and CMC would be like if you have a teacher's ed at your institution, we do have children's collections because we need to support our students who want to become teachers in doing their lesson planning, and when they go out and do their, not observations, what is it called, guys? Student teaching, that's it. So we do have children's materials for those folks. And then most institutions also have a special collections and archives department, and that can be very highly specialized. We also have copyright and scholarly communication librarians. So lots of different options if you want to work in an academic institution and have a public services type of position. However, like other library types, we also have some behind the scenes type jobs. If you're not the people person and that's not your strong suit, there's cataloging at academic libraries, acquisitions. Cara is an acquisitions librarian, so she could answer questions about that. Electronic resources librarians manage things like licensing for databases and making sure that people have access to the databases that we subscribe to. There's systems and web librarians that take care of kind of the IT end of the libraries. And then at some larger institutions, you can just do collection development, which probably would be my favorite job because you get to spend everybody else's money to buy books you like. And then I wanted to show my roles as an academic librarian. I want to kind of piggyback on what some other folks have already said, which is, depending on the size of your institution, your day-to-day work routine will be different. So because I am at a regional campus library that's pretty small, I've done a little bit of everything at some point in my career. Whereas if you work at a main campus library like our Oxford campus, you're probably going to have one job description and do one thing with your whole day. It's nice to have a job like mine because it's really hard to get bored, because as our school librarian said, every day is different. You're doing something different every day because you wear so many hats. Among things that I wish I knew before I became an academic librarian, again, echoing what other folks have said, no one has a clue what we do. So knowing that I was going to have to fight that battle constantly would have been really helpful. Even at a college or university, they think we sit around and read all day, which we all know is not accurate at all. But there's a lot of kind of confusion even among our faculty as to what we do to help their students. And because of that, there's a lot of advocacy, as mentioned by other presenters, letting them know, like, hey, we can make a research guide for your class that is customized to your assignments, or, you know, you can send your students to us for help with citations and finding their sources. And oh, by the way, we teach, right? So I think I wish I had known that I'd constantly be fighting. What is it that you do exactly? And that's everything for me. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Krista. Well, always fun. That's something I know I loved that someone told me ahead of time with academic librarians, is that it is not just the work. There are other things around it, like advocacy or being involved in service. I know I love service. Like, that's an exciting part of my job that they let me do it. But always good to know that there are other duties as assigned, always included, and they can vary greatly. All right, Sarah, let's move on over to you. I'll get shared.
Okay, thank you. That'd be great. She's going to share slides for me. And Cara, some of my slides like have multiple clicks, so click one more time for that one. It's going to be, I'll probably have to tell you that a couple times, sorry. So yes, I am Sarah Mowery. I'm a professional instructional specialist at INFOhio. Prior to working at INFOhio, I was a school librarian for like 15-ish years, something like that. And then I also worked in a public library for a couple years before that even. So I've had a little bit of experience in all different types of libraries, which has been really nice. A lot of people, even though INFOhio has been around for like 25 years now, a lot of people still have not heard of INFOhio. So I wanted to give, on the next slide, I'm going to give kind of just like a little brief overview of what we are. There's a lot, we have a lot of resources and a lot of things, so I'm going to condense it into a really, really short statement, but we are Ohio's pre-K through 12 digital library. So we offer no-cost resources to students all the way from pre-K through grades 12. It's high-quality digital content and tools. And if you notice on our homepage here, we have grade level buttons that help educators and students quickly find the right resources to support learning at every stage. And we have resources like ebooks and videos and databases from a variety of different vendors. And if you go to the next slide, you will see that this is just an example of our grades 6 to 8 page. So if you were on the main page and you clicked grades 6 through 8, this is what you would come to. And you can kind of just by looking at some of the resources, you see that some of them are ebooks, some of them are databases, some of them are encyclopedias, lots of different things available at no cost for students to use for research and for pleasure reading too. We do have some pleasure type ebooks as well. We have thousands. I think we have like 5,000 or so for elementary age and somewhere around there for all the other grade levels as well. And we really work on helping teachers use these in the classroom to supplement the curriculum. We know that we don't have, our things are aligned to the Ohio Learning Standards, but we're not curriculum based. So we really, strive to support the teachers in using them to support their curriculum in the classroom. So not only do we have resources, we also create professional development for educators. And this is our professional development page. And if you just do 3 clicks, Cara, I'm going to talk about those 3 things right there. The INFOhio Learning Pathways, the first one up there at the top, are asynchronous self-paced online classes that we've created at INFOhio. And most of them are about specific resources and how to use them in the classroom. So you can just go through the class, you can get a certificate at the end for contact hours if you need it for like to renew your license or something like that. So, and they're all free, no cost. And then the next one down is our Learn with INFOhio webinars. We try to do at least 3 to 4 webinars a year, if not more than that. We were doing about one a month for a while when during the COVID times when we couldn't get out to, because we do go face to face sometimes and in person to meetings and conferences now. But during that time when we were all very, very remote, we did try to do a lot more webinars. So we do have an archive of webinars that we've done as well. And then the last button there, if anybody is interested, if I coach and I partner, if you're going into education, that's our I coach program. It's our train the trainer program that basically teaches you how to collaborate and share INFOhio resources with your staff, like in your building. So iCoaches would be like for people who are in education, so in school buildings or principals, things like that. And then we also have an iPartner program, which is essentially the same thing, but it's for people from public libraries. So public libraries, academic libraries, anybody else in any other type of library or ESCs, things like that. So if you're interested, check that out. It's really easy to get to on our homepage. There's a main menu button and it just says professional development and it will take you to all of these. So that's kind of in a nutshell what INFOhio does or has done over the years. And my role at INFOhio, I have quite a few hats, just as everybody has talked about. We have a very, very small team and it's getting smaller. We have somebody who's retiring pretty soon. So there's going to be one less of us on our small little team. I think we'll have 3 of us after she retires. So probably going to have a little bit more hats soon too. But so the first one that I do frequently is I'm a trainer. As a trainer, I create presentations and webinars that support the use of INFOhio resources in the classroom, as I said earlier. I and the other instructional specialists work mostly remotely, so I do work from home. We do have an office, a main office, like a central office for a few of our people who work for our team, but most of us work from home. So this is a remote position. However, we have been going to in-person conferences such as OELMA and OETC and some other smaller conferences, smaller educational conferences. And we also do some user meetings, library meetings that meet up. So we will go to those as well. So that's kind of my role as a trainer. I also am considered a writer. I would never have thought I would ever become a writer, but this job has really pushes creativity and really pushes us to express ourselves. So I write blogs and articles. The blogs are focused on, again, the integration of the INFOhio resources into the classroom, like how can you use them, or into the library even. The articles highlight some of our new things. So I'll write like our kind of our news items, which are more, just here's what we got. And then the blogs are more, how do you integrate them? I also would be considered an editor to an extent. I edit content. When others write blogs or, create things, I am one of the people who provide a lot of feedback to make sure that it's, I wouldn't say perfect because I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect, but I have been nicknamed the Eagle Eye. I tend to find things that other people don't always see. So I do that. And then I'm also considered the digital resources liaison, which basically just means that I meet with our vendors once a month. We have a monthly meeting already pre-scheduled on our calendar. So vendors like WorldBook, EBSCO, Capstone, Scholastic, some of those major vendors you've probably heard of before. We do have a monthly meeting with them, and basically it's just to find out what's new, what are the new resources coming out. If we have anything that's not working right and we need to troubleshoot with them on something, we can have them help us with that. And then I'm also the point person for when we do get digital resource tickets. So like if somebody puts a case in and it's not working for them or their authentication's not working right, I do a lot of the troubleshooting and the behind the scenes trying to figure out what's going on with them as well. And then last but not least, I am the co-lead for Users Council. the Users Council is a group of, you can have up to 11 representatives from each ITC, which is another acronym, I know, Information Technology Center. That's kind of the group. There's I don't remember how many we have now in Ohio, but there's maybe 10 or so ITCs in Ohio, and school districts belong to different ITCs. And ITCs are basically where they get like their internet access, and they do a lot of their like grade book type software. All of that comes from their ITC. So we are also fortunate enough to have people from the ITCs or educators from the ITCs who support us. And they are like a group of, we call them Users Council, and they're a group of lovely librarians who support us and provide feedback. And they're usually the first to know about anything that we get that's new. And we find out from them, you know, what do we need to work on? What needs to be fixed? Is this good? We get a lot of positive, usually positive feedback, or things we need to work on as well. So just a great experience to be able to work with them. We do 3 webinars a year, and then we also have a face-to-face meeting with them as well. So, and I think that's basically it. Just if anyone's interested, I'm sure these slides maybe will be available at some point. You can access them later. But if you don't know about INFOhio and you want to know, there is a INFOhio about page where you can sign up for like a newsletter and things like that. And that is basically all I have for you. But I love my job. I'll leave it at that.
Awesome. I love those gifts. And so many hats. Oh, wow. I'm well impressed. I'm super excited to learn about that iPartner thing. I had not realized that was something that INFOhio did. Let's see if I can make my mouse work. It's been giving me trouble all day. I don't know if y'all get floaty mouse, but
When you share a screen too, it kind of messes everything up. So sorry, that's probably my fault. I made you share.
All right. So, as we've heard from all of our panelists today from various aspects of libraries, I am going to move into the Q&A time. So again, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in chat or access the Q&A feature, and I'll pull the ones as I see them coming through and ask them to the group. But I will go ahead. We have a list of questions just in case that we can start with. The one I want to start with is, what drew you to the type of library you're in currently? And paired with it, how did you get started? I know some of you kind of gave a little bit of how you got there, but can you reiterate what drew you specifically to this type? And I'll go ahead and ping people that way. We don't have to be we're not fighting over the mic. I will start with Jennifer.
So I always knew I wanted to be an English teacher, which is what I did for the first 5 years of my school career, and kept finding myself drawn to bigger projects and more opportunities. And so I ended up going back to get my master's so that I could be a school librarian. In Ohio, in order to become a school librarian, you must have your teaching degree first. And so I had my teaching degree and went back and got my master's, and I wouldn't leave. I'm in a middle school, and you either love them or dislike them because middle schoolers are a lot, and they smell really bad. But I absolutely adore every moment of my day with them. And it's partially that's what drew me to it, was this population, because you just don't know what you're going to encounter with middle schoolers. So they're much fun.
Cheryl, same question to you. What drew you to public library?
So many things. A lot of it goes back to me being a young person and relying on my local public library serve as that safe space where I could go and just be and look up whatever information I wanted. And I wanted to, so initially that's what I wanted, was to be that person for somebody else, you know, that teenager or whoever, because before everything, I was a teen person. So I love those middle schoolers. I know they do smell bad, but I just love teens. So that's what I wanted to be, the person that they would remember as the librarian who listened to them or just let them exist or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's just because I really genuinely like interacting with the public and serving the public.
Very cool, and more power to you. Someone's got to have their back. Sarah, what drew you to eventually getting into the special librarianship with INFOhio?
Well, I actually started COVID, 2020. That was the year that the position was posted, and I thought, I was already working. I was at that time before I was working in a school library, and the school district I was in, I won't say what school district it is, but they did not appreciate librarians. I'll put it like that. And so they had us spread very thin. I know Jenn's in 2 middle schools, so it's kind of the same thing, but I was in 2 elementary schools on a fixed schedule, which I know sounds weird, but I had a person that worked, I had an aide who worked opposite me. So when I was in one building teaching the lessons, she would be in the other building. I would have to create like mini lesson plans for her to do with the students and check in. She would check in and check out books. So it was I was not in a good place as far as being supported in what I was doing. And I felt very stretched thin and I was stressed out all of the time. I had 2 little ones at home in my own personal life too. So I was trying to handle the stress of that too. So it was just a lot was going on, and this job opened up, and I thought I always use INFOhio resources in my library. So I knew all about it, not all about it, but enough about it where I knew what it was, and thought, oh gosh. And I knew they were remote positions, and I was like, that would be really ideal for me with my kids at home and being able to take them to and from school and just all of those kinds of things. So there's a lot of personal choice in this direction that I headed. And fortunately I got the position, and I've been here, for the 5 years. So it's been nice. But yeah, there was just some things going on that I needed a change of scenery. So
I'm glad INFOhio can give it to you, even with all your hats.
thank you.
Sounds like you're getting a nice variety.
Yeah.
Work-life
Creative.
balance.
Yes, and it's creative. It's a creative place to work. So I like that.
I know, Krista, you shared that you started off in the public libraries and then transitioned over, and it was lucky that like Hamilton was your hometown anyways. But given that you're also a director, did you ever envision that you would be managing not just books and instruction, but also people?
Well, my very first professional job was a management job. I was head of circulation when I got my MLS. So I stayed in public libraries to just change roles. And so I didn't actually plan for that, but that's how it worked out, and I enjoyed it. So here we are. But the reason I got into academic libraries and why Cheryl pointed out the yelling at, it was not for me, getting yelled at so much. And then the other thing is, when I was an undergrad, I was a history major, so I had to do a lot of research, and I always loved doing the research and hated writing the papers. And now I get to do that all day.
All right, we've got some questions coming in. And so I'm going to go ahead and read off our first one from someone who is currently an undergrad student in case management, but their goal is to be a public librarian. And they feel that public librarians have such a unique position in the community to serve people. It's really playing off what I think, Cheryl, what you really indicated, that you're here to serve that community and be part. Working with people who need help with resources is one of their favorite parts of the library. Is there a specific position in the library that you would recommend this person look into if they're really interested in directly interacting with the public?
Yeah, so I think that it depends on which type of library, what type of public library you're going into. So for where I currently am at Ritter, with this being a small library, anything that, any of them, really, you're going to be able to interact. We have people who work the circ desk, we have associates who do programmings, and we are, soon hopefully to have a librarian, we have managers. But really, anybody who interacts on that daily basis can get the information and make those connections with people that way. But I think that the associate level or higher, you're going to be able to do a little bit more. So that usually requires a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. Now, in my previous job in Lorraine, some bigger libraries are starting to, well, I don't know now with state funding. I mean, we were going in the direction of some libraries were starting to look into positions that were specifically more on the social work aspect of things. That could still be. I do know maybe if you look out of the state or look elsewhere, there are libraries that have niche jobs like that too. So keep your eye your eye peeled on some of the job postings for that.
So, all right, now we've got one that is more aimed towards academic librarians. So I think Krista, you and I are going to wind up splitting this. Because this person is really interested in the overlap between public and services and tech services. Like they are interested in the difference between like collection development and acquisitions. But they're wondering is like, what a public service librarian sometimes do tech services kinds of stuff or go back and forth. And so I know that you have the pets in your libraries. Do you want to speak a little to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say there's more overlap the smaller the institution. Again, I have had to do everything in my role as an academic librarian, including copy cataloging, acquisitions. I was in charge of our website at one point. So a lot of those behind the scene jobs you end up doing when you're in a small library, and everyone has what would be 5 jobs at a main campus library. I'll take a crack at the difference between acquisitions and collection development or collection management, and Cara can follow up on this if need be. The collection management people decide what to buy. They also decide what to get rid of. So when we do reading projects, what can we get rid of? The acquisitions person actually does all the buying. And there's a lot of other details that go with that make it a full-time job. So Cara could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so that this is the like big 3,000-foot view is someone really delving into and being the expert in the subject matter. And I think Krista also was very apt in saying that the size of the library matters, which is similar to what Cheryl's noted too. If you have a very small library where there's only 2 of you, I know I had a person who worked in a library like that where they split the duties. One person enjoyed tech services more, so they did the cataloging and the buying, and the other person enjoyed working with the patrons more, so they did circulation and instruction, and they split it that way, but would back each other up because they were the only 2 folks there. And my current library, we're a part of the Big Ten Academic Alliance. We're pretty on the larger side, so we have much bigger staff because we manage a lot more collections and have a lot of degree programs. I'm just starting to get a handle on it, but we have something called collection managers, which is maybe something that grew out of being a bibliographer, if you ever hear that term thrown around. But it's someone who is very specialized in a unique area. Here, sometimes they're broken down really, really small. Like we have someone who's specialized in Chinese, Japanese, and Korean specifically, and that's what they collected. And they also help with the cataloging as well with sometimes that material. Because they have knowledge of the language, whereas depending on how big your cataloging department is, sometimes you have language expertise, sometimes you don't, and you have to figure out a way through it. But yeah, I do acquisitions, so I do everything from licensing new resources to actually purchasing them, putting down the credit card, handling invoices. I rely on my colleagues who have more of the awareness of what's actually matching curriculum or matching research. They work directly with faculty and students. They're like, hey, we do need this journal because we have research going on. And I'm like, all right, I'll look into where's the best place to get that. Should we go direct? Should we go to like a subscription agent who can handle some of that on our behalf? Or are we locally hosting and getting into a lot of tech stuff where I got to interface with systems? So yeah, tech services there's a lot of overlap that can be done, and it all has to be done in concert for it to be done well. If you're just having acquisitions not talk to your collection development people, there's going to be some weirdness going on, and it's not going to be as fruitful. When I actually just got out of a meeting today where it was our acquisitions and some of our CD heads, and we got to talk together and be like, hey, what are kind of the pinch points? Let's start working on how to make those better so we can communicate more thoroughly, which is great. But I think you can do both, especially if you're interested in both. Smaller the library is more likely where you're going to find that, so that you can get a little bit of a well-rounded approach. I'll move ahead on to our next question, which I think some of you have touched on, but I think it'll also be good to reiterate. And also, I'd be interested to see how many of you overlap, is what kind of skills or qualities are especially valuable in the type of work you're doing. And for this one, I'll go ahead and start.
You cut out.
You cut out.
We're going to
Yeah.
start with?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say, what skills or qualities are especially valuable in your library setting? I was going to ask Sarah to start.
Well, I do things that are in person, like I mentioned before, and we do have to be out in public sometimes, but I would say 80%, if not more, of my job is working behind a computer all day long. No one's around. I have my dog, and if you noticed earlier, I was turning my camera on and off. It was because of my dog, so I apologize for that. She was going a little crazy in the background. So I guess the number one thing for this position, like if you work in a remote position, you have to be, what's the word? You have to be able to get things done without having somebody to tell you what to get things done. And I mean, you don't even have like a coworker, next door, to see what you're doing. So it's very like, there is a word for it and I can't think of it right now, but you have to be able to do it. Like you have to just be able to get down to it and do the work and get it done. You don't have anybody breathing down your neck. So it's one of those things where if you don't feel like you're good at that, like for example, my husband, he is a principal in an elementary school. And he tells me all the time he would never, ever, ever be able to do my job because he cannot sit down and focus and do something and get things done like that. He has to have people to work with and like all that kind of stuff. So if you're working in a remote position, just keep that in mind. Or even, I mean, I guess if you think about like some of those more like technical positions, you might want to think about that. Like, do you need people to work with to do well, or do you do better working on your own? If you do better working on your own, then this type of job would be for you. But if you don't, you might want to look at the more public services side of things. Just kind of my 2 cents.
So, Jen, do you have any recommendations about top skills?
So number one, kind of to piggyback off of Sarah, I have people around me, but nobody knows what I do or what I'm supposed to be doing. So I have to be very self-directed and really look at the whole picture because I am the everything. The other big thing I would say if you're going to be in a school is you've got to be willing to, and this sounds terrible, you got to be willing to look silly sometimes because I will do anything to keep my students engaged and get them excited about reading. And so I today was singing to a student as they checked out their books, and I'm not meant to sing, just so you all know. But it was very much, it got them engaged, got somebody else in a conversation with me, and I'm like, that's fine. I will be as foolish as possible. So those are the two big ones, is that you just have to be able to figure out what to do, what needs to be done, and what has to be done in what order to get through your day.
We had another question come in chat, which I think actually pairs really well with this one. Is that they're just starting that job hunt. They're right fresh out of their MLS. And they're sort of kind of wondering what makes a candidate stand out. So maybe that's something you can work in as you answer top skills, because I see that in, at least in CVs, I'm always like, ooh, we're looking for X, Y, and Z. I would say Cheryl, you're a director. Do you want to start with this one?
Sure. Yeah, so, well, I think in a public library, adaptability is probably the number one thing, just because, like everybody said, every day is different, but we have that extra layer of, you have the public element added to it. So being adaptable is very important. I think that somebody who is compassionate is also very important when you're working with the public. And not being so rigid with these are the rules, I can't do this. I mean, yeah, there are rules, but coming from your public service with a place of empathy, from a place of empathy, and probably a sense of humor. So when I'm interviewing, every director is going to be different and have a different approach for the culture that they're trying to build in their organization. But to me, somebody who just has a real hunger and a passion for wanting to make a difference is what stands out to me. It's not the skills. You can get the skills as you go. It's that kind of fire of I wanna be there for people and I want to learn and I want to serve.
And I'll keep going around our little circle. Krista, do you have thoughts on how to make yourself
So
stand out?
I have answers that kind of go with both of those questions. I would say as a hiring manager, the first thing that I look for on a resume to make a candidate stand out is that they have written their cover letter and designed their resume to match the specific things that are asked for in the position and description. So I literally make a rubric and check off like this candidate has this, and this. I try to be as objective as possible about it by looking for those things. So definitely don't have like a standard resume and cover letter that you send for everything. Very much customize it to the position you're applying for. And in academic libraries, as far as what makes or the skill set, I mean, it's going to vary widely depending on the type of position that you're applying for. I can speak most to public services, and for me, that would be somebody who can teach. You have to do a teaching demonstration when you apply for academic jobs that are public facing. So the ability to teach, I would say the ability to multitask, be self-directed again, because we can't watch what you're doing 24/7, and we expect that you have the same degree I have, so you know how to do your job. Just get it done.
Fabulous. Now we're coming towards the end of the hour, so I'm going to pause questions here and say thank you so much to our presenters. I really enjoyed listening to this chat, and thank you so much to our attendees for those fabulous questions that you have asked. I wish we could have had longer. The hour always goes by so quickly. But some final things we wanted to mention is that if you're looking for this in the future and like, oh, I want to hear about it, we're hoping to have this posted on our website in the future so that you can review it again. It's at new to libraries network.wordpress. We posted it in the chat earlier. We also have a Mighty Network space. If you're looking to directly communicate, you can check that out. That's also linked from our website as well. And I'll turn it over to Chloe to announce one of our new programs.
Okay, everyone, I'll get those links posted in just a moment. But first, we want to share our latest project. I'm Chloe Brown. I'm part of the leadership team along with Cara and Aaron. And our newest project is the New to Libraries Buddy Program. We will pair you with a fellow library newbie based on your shared interests and goals. And the expectation is that you'll meet once a quarter at least to share your wins, challenges, and resources. So you'll kind of support each other through the next calendar year. We've created an application, which I'll post in the chat in just a moment. And if you apply between now and December, you'll be paired with a buddy by the end of the year to start that pilot year in 2026.
Great. Fabulous. And then the last thing we have is if you could please fill out our evaluation survey. That'll super help us to plan future events. and that'll be super helpful. I know Chloe's getting links posted in the chat. Krista, you've got your hand up. Any last
Yeah,
thoughts?
I wanted to point out that I've put my email address in the chat in case anyone has additional questions related to academic libraries. And I also wanted to give one other piece of advice that no one talked about, and that's get a mentor. There are a lot of mentoring programs available for librarians, and you should get one, whether it's formal or informal.
Yeah, I would definitely second that. There are a lot that are actually looking for people right now, like course library leadership, which is a part of ALA. Theirs is actively seeking mentors and mentees. I believe ALAO, theirs may have just closed, but right around this time, they open every year and it lasts a year. So definitely keep an eye out for that because it is fabulous. I've done it in several different capacities and they've always brought something new and interesting. But yeah. Thank you so much for all your information today. I really appreciate it. This was an awesome way for me to end a Wednesday.